Can Canada do substantial business with all three superpowers, and what risks will we face in trying to do so? With me now for that discussion are three former ambassadors. Former Canadian ambassador to the United States, Burney is here. Former Canadian ambassador to China, Guy Saint-Jacques is with us, and former Canadian High Commissioner to India, Stuart Beck, rounds us out. It's a pleasure to see all three of you. Very happy to have you all together, and I appreciate you making the time. Mr. Burney, I'll start with you. Before we get into where and how we might be able to diversify, I wanted to start off by asking you sort of about the impetus for doing so. Do you agree with the assessment from the Prime Minister that the relationship from an economic perspective with the United States that we have enjoyed for many decades is effectively over?
Well, over is a big word, but it's certainly different. And I can't help but agree that it's time that Canada, as a matter of strategic priority, started looking to new markets, particularly in Asia, particularly markets like Japan, Korea, India, even China and Indonesia, because they're much more open to increased exports from Canada and I think investment partnerships as well. You know, they're very receptive, Japan and Korea in particular, I would think India as well, to imports of LNG and oil from Canada. And we could do that and then forego the selling of oil to the United States at a discount. I think the best way to negotiate better terms on a new deal with the United States is to demonstrate that we have alternatives. And we do. It's just that we're not paying much time on them. Prime Minister's been to Europe 5 times. He yet to visit Asia. It's high time he got his act together and visited prime customers in Asia. And of course, he's got a lot of work to do at home to make sure that what we have to offer for export is actually exportable.
So let's pick up on the prospect of more trade with Asia, or more largely the Indo-Pacific. And Mr. Saint-Jacques, I wanted to start off with you in China. We've spoken many times over the last number of years about the reason why the relationship between our two countries has deteriorated. My understanding is the Prime Minister could meet with the President of China as soon as a few weeks from now on the sidelines of APEC. He's already met with the Premier. How surmountable do you view the challenges that exist and have existed for the last number of years between our two countries?
Well, I would say first that Mr. Carney is very well perceived in Beijing. He made a number of trips to Beijing when he was at Goldman Sachs. He is seen as a pragmatist, and it's clear that since he has been elected, he has put the steps in place so that we could have a gradual rapprochement with China, and of course the fact that the Indo-Pacific strategy painted China as an adversary, and we were looking to India, especially, and other markets in Asia to increase our export, despite. Fact remains that last year, if we include our gold export, we exported more than $55 billion worth of product to China. There is a potential to increase our sale. It remains a difficult market, but still there are good trade opportunities.
Mr. Beck, you have a lot of experience in India, and just as there are irritants in the relationship with China, particularly over the past 2 years, there have been pronounced, you know, you could call, I don't even know if irritants is the right word, but very specific accusations that the federal government under Justin Trudeau made against the government of India. Obviously, over the last week, there have been a series of meetings and a visit to India from the Foreign Affairs Minister. How, you know, what is your best advice for the federal government about how those allegations, those concerns, should or should not enter into the pursuit of more trade with India?
Well, I think the reality, Vassie, is that it's going to enter into the relationship no matter, because there will be more steps in the investigation. There'll be more issues that come to the front. The question that the government has to well, it's not really a question. The government has to manage the interaction and manage the communications between both sides. So I don't think the Indians will ever back down from their positions. They will assist with the investigations. That came out of the meetings between the two national security advisors and the foreign minister on the Indian side and the deputy minister on the Canadian side. So that is one path that has gone forward and has gone forward, I think, quite well. I I think what with Minister Annan's visit, if you read the joint statement, there are a lot of things in that joint statement that will help put the relationship back on track, and I think it's very important.
The impetus, Mr. Burney, for diversifying trade is, of course, the threat we face right now from the United States, but we still remain very reliant on them, and there are negotiations going on, it looks like, to try and reach some sectoral agreements. The United States has a very specific view of China. What is your view on, how carefully we have to tread on that front, given that, Trump has a view of China as a very clear adversary, and we're in the middle of those negotiations?
What I could say is I don't think it was appropriate for the Prime Minister to promise to go along with the Americans on everything with China. I mean, in the end, China and the United States are going to strike a preferential deal between themselves. It's only a matter of time. And we're not going to benefit from that. So I don't think we should be too worried about keeping too close to the Americans on what they're doing with China. I think we should address the issue of China on our own. We have our own merits to deal with China, and we should exploit them. If we have to relax the tariffs on EV imports in order to get a market there for our canola, we should consider it. We shouldn't be, what do we owe the big three American auto firms in Canada? Absolutely nothing. They're doing nothing for Canada. And we should keep that in mind as we look at these other markets. We've got to take the blinkers off. We're dealing with a Trump administration that is lawless and that has no respect for international norms. Why do you think it's taking so long for us to get a deal with them? We're not dealing with deal makers. We're dealing with bullies. And the only way you deal with a bully is to find another partner.
Mr. Burney led me exactly where I would like to go with you, Mr. St. Jacques, which is around exactly a week ago on this program, the Chinese ambassador very explicitly outlined, that if those tariffs on EVs are lifted, the tariffs on canola would be lifted as well. What is your view against the backdrop of the U.S. saying we want Canada to back us in a trade war with China on what the federal government should do in that?
Well, if the U.S. were serious about that, we should have received brownie points for adopting the same tariffs on electric vehicles as the Americans want. But, Trump keeps punishing Canada, and despite the fact that 85% of our export are exempt from tariffs, our aluminum, our lumber industry are suffering, and the hemorrhage has started in the automotive sector. So I think the other Damocles sword is that in fact, we are not sure that CUSMA, the free trade agreement, will be renewed next year. And I think that Mr. Carney is very conscious of that. So I agree entirely with Derek that, in fact, we should look once again at this issue of tariffs on electric vehicles, do maybe a full study under the WTO rules, and we would probably end up at a place similar to the EU with tariffs between 15 and 35%. And in fact, we may be at the stage where we should invite Chinese manufacturers to come to Canada to manufacture products for the Canadian market. And we could insist on arrangements with them that are similar to those that they impose on Canada.
I think the question applies to both China but also India. Mr. Beck, and the last question goes to you. Is it possible, because I can imagine presenting that scenario to Canadians and them raising concerns over national security, just as they would with India and with those allegations, is it possible to expand a relationship based on trade even when there are such serious national security concerns?
I'd like to compartmentalize the issues around security and intelligence, because it's been a problem that we've had. As far as I first arrived in India in 2010, and it was an issue at that point in time. The Indian government was telling us of the problems that we had around Khalistani separatism, and it's not something that, we've always understood that there's an issue there, and the question is how we've managed that issue. So yes, there's always going to be that conversation, Vasi, and it's going to be something that's going to come up again in the not too distant future. So it's how do we maintain some sort of consistency so we don't get bounced around. But the trade relationship is a strong one. It's one that it's in both our interests to pursue and to continue. And maybe that's that integrated fiber that's going to keep it going forward in the right direction.
Okay, I'll leave it on that note. Thank you, everyone, for making the time for the discussion. I appreciate it very much. Derek, Burney, Guy Saint-Jacques, and Stuart Beck.